There is a pond in the old capital, Budia, that hides at the foot of a mountain. Quiet water, reeds, pine trees leaning close. And a very long time ago, more than 1,000 years ago now, a young woman knelt at the edge of that water every day, from first light until dark. She was waiting to see a shadow appear on the surface. Her husband's work. She had been promised that when it appeared, he would be finished, and he would come to her at last.
Okay, that's not scary. That's just a lady waiting for her husband. I can do this one, Papa. What's she waiting to see?
A tower, little one, reflected in the water. Her husband was building a great stone tower up on the mountain, and a kind old monk had told her, "Watch the pond. When the tower is done, its shadow will fall across the water. When you see the tower in the pond, the work is over, and he is yours again."
Oh, that's actually kind of beautiful. She watches the water and one day the tower just appears, and that means he's coming. Papa, why do you have your sad voice on? That's a nice...
Because of one thing she did not know, Bulia. One thing nobody had the heart to tell her. The tower her husband was building was the most perfect tower in all the land. And it was so pure, and so plain, and so perfectly made, that it was the one tower in the whole world that casts no shadow on the water. She was kneeling at that pond every day, watching for a reflection that was never, ever going to come.
No, wait. So she's going to wait forever? For a thing that can't happen? Papa, I don't like where this is going. I want to go back to nice lady waiting for her husband. Take me back.
I cannot, little one. No one ever could. But here's what I can do. I can take you back to the very beginning, before the pond, before the waiting, to a small warm house in the south, where those two people were together and happy and had no idea what a tower or a pond would one day cost them. Lie down, Bulia. Let me show you how much they loved each other first. It matters. It is the only way the rest of it means anything. His name was Asadal. And in all the land, there was no better hand at stone than his. He could look at a raw gray boulder, the size of a house, and see, already living inside it, the shape he would set free. His people had carved stone for generations, in a kingdom to the south, a kingdom that by his time had already fallen and was gone. So Asadal was a man without a country who carried his whole vanished homeland in a pair of scarred, patient hands.
His whole country was gone, but his hands remembered it. Papa, that's already a little bit sad, and we just started.
Everything about him was a little bit sad, and a little bit steady, little one, like a man who has already lost one large thing and has decided to be very careful with the small ones. And the small thing he was most careful with was his wife. Her name was Asanyeo, and where he was quiet, she was quick. Where he was heavy, she was light. He would work all day without a word, and she would talk enough for the both of them. And at night, by the fire, she would read his silences the way other people read books.
Oh, I love her already. The quiet, grumpy stone man and the wife who just knows what he's thinking. Papa, that's the good kind of love. That's the you don't even have to talk kind.
It was, Biburi. It truly was. They had almost nothing. A small house, a hearth, a loom in the corner where she worked while he shaped stone in the yard. But in the evenings, the fire was warm, and her hand would find his rough one in the dark, and neither of them ever once thought to want more than that. That is the thing I need you to hold on to tonight, little one. However far apart this story pushes them, remember that once they had this, a fire, 2 hands, enough.
I'm holding it. Fire, 2 hands, enough. Got it. Papa, please don't take it away.
And then, one day, the king's men came up the road. Far away in the capital, in the great city of Seorabeol, the kingdom was building the most magnificent temple it had ever dreamed of. Bulguksa, the temple of the Buddha land. And at the heart of it, they wanted 2 stone pagodas, twin towers, so beautiful they would still be standing 1,000 years later. For work like that, a king does not hire an ordinary mason. He sends across the whole land for the one pair of hands that can do the impossible. And every road, in the end, led to Asadal.
So, it's an honor. It's a huge honor. The king wants him. But Papa, your voice is doing the thing again. Why does the honor sound like a door closing?
Because of what it cost, little one. The capital was far, many mountains and many rivers far. And a work like that is not a season. It is years. He would have to go alone and live inside the temple grounds and give every hour of every day to the stone until it was finished. There was no refusing a king, so it was not really a choice. It was only a goodbye that had to be dressed up as an honor.
Years. Years. And no, Papa, wait. Back then there's no. They can't call. They can't text. There's no good morning every day, nothing. He just leaves, and then it's just silence for years. I would lose my entire mind. I lose my mind when the chicken is 5 minutes late. I could not survive years.
No letters that could cross those mountains quickly. No, only the waiting and the trusting and the counting of seasons. On the last morning, they stood at the gate of their little house. She had packed his tools herself, the chisels, the mallet, the inked measuring line wrapped in cloth, and she put the bundle in his hands, and she held onto his hands over it, and for a long moment, neither of them let go.
What did they say? Papa, what do you even say?
He was not a man of speeches, little one. He said only one thing. He said, "When the tower stands, I will come home." And she, who always had more words than him, this time she matched him. She said just, "Then I will know you by your tower. Build it so I will know it anywhere." And he shouldered his tools, and he walked north up the road, and he did not look back, because he was afraid that if he looked back, he would not be able to make his feet keep going. And she stood at the gate and watched his back until the road took him, and then she watched the empty road a while longer, in case.
Build it so I will know it anywhere. Oh, that's Papa that's going to matter later, isn't it? That's one of the ones that comes back. I can feel it coming back.
Everything comes back, Bulia. That is what a story is. Now, I have to do something new tonight, little one, and I need you to stay close for it. From here, our story lives in two places at once. Him in the north, at the temple with the stone. Her in the south, at the house with the empty road. Two people, one promise, a whole country of mountains in between. I am going to carry you back and forth between them, and they will not be in the same place again. Not once, until the very end. That is the whole ache of it. Are you ready?
No, but go. I'm holding the fire and the two hands. Go, Papa.
Bulguksa, when Asadal arrived, took his breath from him. Great terraces of pale granite climbing the mountainside. Stone bridges like frozen music. Wooden halls painted in 100 colors, and the smell of new-cut timber and incense on the cold air. Hundreds of workers, and at the center of it all, two empty stone platforms, waiting for the two towers that only he could raise. He set down his tools, and he put his hand flat on the first cold stone, the way you would greet a person. And then he began.
He touched it like it was alive, like hello, it's just you and me now.
For him it was alive, little one. One of the towers was to be ornate, a dazzling, intricate thing, all carved canopies and tiers, a tower to make people gasp. And Asadal built it, and it was a marvel. But it was the other one that held his heart. The plain one, because the plain tower is the hard one. Bulia. Anyone can hide a mistake under decoration. To make a thing perfectly simple, 3 clean tiers, not one line wrong, nothing to look at, and nothing you can look away from. That is the work of a lifetime. And he decided, without ever saying it to a soul, that the plain tower would be for her, the one she could know anywhere. He was building his wife a promise out of granite.
The plain one is for her. He's making the you'll know me anywhere tower. Papa, he's putting her in the stone and he doesn't even tell anyone. He just quietly, my tail hurts. Is that a thing? Can a tail hurt?
A tail can hurt, little one. Mine does too in this part. And here's what the work did to him. He poured everything he could not say into that stone. Every night he missed her, he cut it into the granite. Every word he was too quiet to send home, he gave to the tower instead. The plainer he made it, the more of his heart was hiding inside it. And time did what time does to a man with his whole soul in his hands. The seasons turned, and he barely noticed. 1 year, then another. He told himself, a little more, finish it right, and go home to her whole, not half. Just a little more. Now hold him there, Bulia, mid-chisel, stone dust in the lamplight, telling himself a little more. And come south with me, across all those mountains, to the small house with the loom, because his wife had been counting the same seasons, and she had run out of the ability to count them quietly.
Oh no, she's been down there this whole time, alone, with the empty road.
With the empty road, little one. At first, she was proud. Her husband, building the king's own temple. She told the neighbors, she kept the fire lit like he might walk in any night. But 1 year became 2, and 2 began to reach toward 3, and no word came that could cross those mountains. And the silence started to weigh more than the missing did. She would sit at the loom and realize she had forgotten the exact sound of his voice, and that frightened her more than anything else in the world.
She's forgetting his voice. Papa, that's you can bear missing someone, but you can't bear forgetting them. That's a different, worse thing.
It is the worst thing, Biberi. And so Asanyeo made a decision as brave and as doomed as any in this whole story. She decided she would not sit at that loom and forget her husband one small piece at a time. She would go to him. She would cross the mountains herself, a woman, alone, walking hundreds of miles to a great cold city where she knew no one, in a capital that had once ruled over the very kingdom her people had lost. A stranger, going to find the only other stranger who had ever felt like home. She banked the fire, and she closed the door of the little house, and she turned north up the same road that had taken him. And she walked.
Go find him. Papa, she's not just waiting. She's not sitting there being sad. She got up, and she's walking across a whole country to get her person back. That's Papa. Please let this be the part where they finally...
She walked for weeks, little one. Worn shoes, a road that never ended, kindness from some strangers, and hard eyes from others. And every hard mile, she held one picture in her mind to keep her feet moving, the moment she would walk through the temple gate and find him in the dust and the stone, and he would look up and know her. She was so close, Biberi. By the time she finally saw the painted roofs of Bulguksa rising against the mountain, her husband was perhaps 300 steps away, up on his platform, setting stone. 300 steps after 3 years and 300 miles. And she was about to learn that the last 300 steps can be the ones you are not allowed to take.
What? What do you mean not allowed? She walked here. Papa, she can see the roof. She's right there. Why can't she just...
Come with me to the gate, little one. Both of them are about to be closer than they have been in 3 years, and neither of them is going to know it. She reached the great gate of Bulguksa at last, footsore and shining-eyed, and she told the men there, I am the wife of Asadal, the master mason. I have walked from the south. Please, let me see my husband. And the guard was not cruel. Little one, that is what I need you to understand. He was only a man doing his duty. He said, the temple is holy ground, and the great work is sacred, and while it is unfinished, no outsider may enter, and no woman may set foot inside these walls. Those were the rules of that time and that place. Come back when the work is done.
That's Papa, that's a stupid rule. She walked 300 miles, he's right there, just let her. One look, one.
Everyone who hears this story wants to shout that, Buddha. For 1,000 years, people have wanted to shout it at that gate. And on the other side of that very wall, close enough that if the wind had been right, she might have heard his mallet. Asadal worked on, deep in his stone, telling himself a little more, with no idea on this earth that his wife was standing at the gate with her heart in her hands. That is the cruelest kind of near, little one. Not oceans apart, one wall apart, both of them certain the other was far away.
He doesn't know, she's right there, and he doesn't even Papa. He would drop everything, he would run, if he just knew.
If he just knew. But he did not, and she could not get word to him, because she could not get in. So she sat down outside that wall, and she did not leave, day after day, at the gate, hoping. And at last an old monk of the temple, a gentle man, with kind eyes, took pity on her. He came out to her, and he sat with her, and he told her what he believed was a mercy. And Bulia, I want you to listen to this carefully, because it was meant with love, and it was the most terrible thing anyone said in this whole story.
Why? Why is a kind old monk being kind the terrible part? Papa? I don't.
He said, child, you cannot enter, but you do not need to. Go down to the pond below the temple, the still water at the foot of the mountain. Your husband is building the great pagoda even now. And when it is finished, when the last stone is set, its shadow will fall upon that pond. Watch the water, on the day you see the tower appear in it. The work is done, and your husband is free, and he will come down to you. So do not wait at this hard gate, child. Wait at the water. The water will tell you.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's actually kind though. Like, you'll see it in the water, and then he's coming? That's Papa, that's hope. That's a good thing to give her. Why did you say it was?
Because of the tower he was building, little one. Do you remember? The plain one? The perfect one? The one so pure and so simply made that it was the one tower in all the world that casts no shadow.
Oh no, Papa. The water is never going to. The tower can't. She's going to watch that pond for a shadow that cannot come. The monk sent her to wait for the one thing that can never ever happen, and he thought he was being kind.
He thought he was being kind. Biburi. He went back inside his walls, warm with having comforted a sad young woman, and Asanyeo walked down the mountain path to the pond, and she looked at that quiet water, and for the first time in weeks she smiled. Because now she had a job. Now she only had to watch, and she knelt down at the edge of the water in the reeds, and she began to wait for her husband to appear.
And up the hill he's building the exact tower that makes sure he never will. Both of them working so hard. Both of them so sure, Papa they're both doing everything right, and it's all pointed the wrong way.
Every day now, little one. Our two people are closer in distance and farther in truth than any two people have ever been. He, near the top of the mountain, setting the stones that steal his own shadow. She at the bottom, watching for the shadow he is making sure will never fall. The same tower, from two ends of one mountain, his whole heart in it, and her whole life spent waiting on it. Come to the water with me, Biri. This is where her waiting begins in earnest, and I will not lie to you about how it ends. She waited at the pond, Bulia, the way only someone who loves completely can wait. At dawn she was there, before the mist lifted off the water. All day she watched the surface, every ripple, every trick of the light, her heart leaping at each one. Is that it? Is that the tower? Is he coming? And every time the waters settled again and showed her only the sky and the reeds and her own tired face looking back. At dusk she would finally rise, stiff and cold, and tell herself not today, tomorrow. Tomorrow the tower will come. And she would sleep in the reeds and wake and kneel down and watch again.
Every day, Papa, she does this every day, and every day the water just shows her her own face. She's looking for him and the water keeps showing her herself, alone.
Her own face, alone, day after day. 10 days, then 30. Then the reeds began to yellow, and still she knelt there. The village people nearby began to know her, the woman at the water, always watching. Some brought her food, some thought she had gone out of her mind. And up the mountain, little one, the tower was almost done. Asadal was setting the final stones of the plain pagoda now, the ones highest up, the hardest, the last. He worked in a kind of fever, because he could feel it, almost, and then home to her. He did not know that home to her was 300 steps down the hill, growing thinner and grayer at the edge of a pond, every single day that he got closer to finishing.
Papa, she has to hold on. She's so close. If she can just wait a little longer until he's done and he comes down. She can do it. She's strong. She walked 300 miles. She can wait a few more.
She was strong, Buri. She was so strong. But 100 days is a long time to kneel at the edge of water, watching for a thing that cannot come. And she was so tired, and she loved him so much. And on the 100th night, under a full and heavy moon, with the mist rising silver off the water, and her whole body worn down to almost nothing, Asanyeo looked at the pond, and at last she saw it.
She saw it. The tower? It. Papa did it, finally.
She saw a tower, little one, rising up out of the dark water, pale and perfect and shining in the moonlight. The tower she had crossed a country to find, the one she would know anywhere. Whether the moon made it, or the mist, or her own heart, after 100 days of wanting, I cannot tell you. Maybe her love finally built on that water, the only tower that place would ever hold. But she saw it, Buri. After everything, she saw him in the water at last, and she rose up, and she smiled, and she reached out both her arms toward him, and she walked out onto the water to meet him. I will not show you the rest, Bulia. There is nothing there I would ever ask you to see. Only the moon on the water, and a single long shawl, floating out across the surface where she had reached for him, and the ripples spreading and slowing, and the water going quiet again. And then the pond was smooth and empty and showed only the moon, as if it had never held a tower, or a woman at all. That is all. That is all I will ever show you of it.
The only time the water ever showed her the tower, it wasn't real. And it Papa, the one time she finally saw it. It was the thing that...
I know, little one. I know. The kindest thing that pond ever did for her was a lie. Now, Buri, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear the whole shape of it. Because at that very same hour, that very night, up on the mountain, Asadal set the final stone of the plain pagoda into its place. And he stepped back, in the moonlight, and he looked at the finished tower, perfect and simple and hers, and for the first time in 3 years, his heart lifted all the way up, because it was done. It was finally done. And done meant home. He was, in that moment, the happiest he had been in 3 years. At the exact moment she walked out onto the water, neither of them knowing the other at all.
He's happy. He's up there so happy, because he thinks he's about to. And she's, Papa, at the same time. How do you carry a thing like that? How does anyone carry a thing like that?
You have found the word for it, little one, without knowing. Long ago, my people made a word for exactly this weight, the grief that has no door out. The ache of a thing that was so close and so undone, and so terribly unfair, that it does not dissolve. It stays and soaks into the very ground and the water and the stone. We call it Han.
Han, say it slowly, Papa. What is it? What is Han?
It is the sorrow that cannot be finished, Budia. A woman who walked a country to be told to watch for a shadow that could not fall. A man setting his last happy stone at the very hour his whole reason for setting it slipped under the water 300 steps below. Two people who did everything right, and loved without holding anything back, and were kept one wall, one hillside, one lie apart until it was too late. That grief does not leave a place, little one. It becomes the place. That is Han, and that pond and that tower are made of it to this day. In the morning, Asadal came down the mountain. His work was done, his heart was light, and his feet were quick on the path, because at the bottom of that path was a pond, and beyond it the road south, and at the end of that road home. He had it all planned, little one. He would wash the stone dust off. He would walk the long way back, and he would open the door of the little house, and she would look up from the loom, and he would say, "The tower stands. I came home, just like I promised."
Papa, don't. He doesn't know. He's walking down all happy, and he doesn't.
He came to the edge of the pond, and there were villagers there, standing back, quiet, the way people stand when something terrible has happened, and they do not know the words for it. And the kind old monk was there too, come down from the temple. And in the monk's hands was a long shawl, still wet, that they had lifted from the water. And Asadal looked at that shawl, and he knew it. He had watched his wife weave it in the evenings by their fire, in another life. And the monk could not speak, and did not need to. The still water spoke for him. It showed Asadal the sky, and the reeds, and his own face, and no tower. Never a tower. He understood, all at once, everything the water had done to her, and everything he had built to make sure it would. He did not cry out, "Little one, men," like Asadal do not. He knelt at the edge of the water, where her shawl had floated, and he stayed there a very long time, while the sun crossed the whole sky. And the villagers went home, and the monk prayed, and still he knelt. He had built a tower so perfect it cast no shadow, and it had cost him the one shadow he could not live without, the small one that used to move around their fire, across from his, every night of his life.
He took away shadows for a living, and the one he wanted, the only one, it's the one he can't ever get back. Papa, that's so. That's the cruelest one yet.
And then, little one near dark, Asadal stood up, and he did not walk south to the empty house. He walked to a great gray boulder at the edge of the pond, a raw block of granite half sunk in the reed. And he unwrapped his tools, the chisels, the mallet, the inked line she had packed for him with her own hands a lifetime ago at a gate in the south. And he set his chisel against the stone, and he began one last time to carve.
What is he carving, Papa? What does he make?
He made her a face, Bulia. He carved his wife into the stone at the edge of the water, not weeping, not drowning. He carved her the way she was by the fire, calm and kind, and a little amused, with those quick eyes that could read his silences. He carved her as serene as the Buddha in the temple above, so that anyone who ever passed that pond would think a gentle spirit watched over the water. Stroke by stroke, out of the blank gray stone, her face came up into the moonlight. He worked all night. And a woman who had spent 100 days searching the water for a face that never came now had a face of her own, in stone, at the edge of that very water, one that could never sink, one that would never again be without its shadow.
He gave her a face, the water wouldn't show her his tower, so he carved her a face the water could show forever. Papa, he fixed it. He couldn't save her, but he made it so the pond would never be empty of her again.
And as he set the last line of her face, little one, he did the only speaking he had left in him. He was not a man of prayers any more than he was a man of speeches. But he pressed his forehead to the cold stone of her cheek, and he asked the one thing a man like him can ask. He asked that the next time, in the next life, when the great wheel came round again, and they were born into the world once more, that next time he would find her first, that he would come to her before any tower, before any king, before any wall or water or promise. In the next life, he said to the stone, "Let me reach you before my shadow does." And then he wrapped his tools and he walked south into the mist, and no one in the old capital ever saw Asadal again.
Let me reach you before my shadow does, Papa. Papa, he didn't ask to be saved. He didn't ask to fix this life. He asked for a next one, with her. That's the bravest sad thing I've ever heard. To lose everything and still believe there's a next time, and ask for it.
They finished the temple Bulia. It still stands, in the old capital, more than 1,000 years later. 2 stone pagodas, side by side, one of them ornate and famous and dazzling. And beside it, the plain one, the perfect one. And to this very day, little one, the people call it by the name it earned that terrible year. They call it the Shadowless Tower. Because it is still true. Stand it in the brightest sun, or the fullest moon, and it will not throw its shadow on the water. It never has, it never will.
So the tower still has no shadow, after all this time. It still can't do the one thing she needed, but Papa, the face by the water, is it?
It is still there, Bulia, worn soft by 1,000 years of rain, but still there. A calm stone face at the edge of a quiet pond, watching the water. The pond never once showed her the tower she waited for, not in her whole life. But every single day since, every dawn, every dusk, every full and heavy moon, that water has shown her. Her face looking back out of it, exactly what she came all that way to find, and never got, and now gets, forever. She is the one thing that pond will never be empty of again.
So it wasn't a rescue. Nobody could rescue them. He made sure the water would never lie to her again. He gave the pond her face, so it would always have someone to show. And he asked for a next life, so it wouldn't be the end. Papa, is that what love is? When it can't win, you can't fix it, so you make something that stays, something that remembers, so they can't be unhappened.
Lie down, little one. The mist has settled, and the water is quiet, and a stone face is watching over it, the way it has for 1,000 years. A king built a temple, and it made him famous. But a poor mason built one small face out of grief, so that a woman who was never met would never be forgotten, and that is the thing that crossed all the way down the years to us. We came to the water tonight, Bulia. We sat with her. We know her name. And somewhere out ahead of both of us, in a life that has not come round yet, a quiet man with careful hands is going to turn a corner and look up and reach her first this time. Sleep now, little one. We remembered them. That is the whole thing they needed. We remembered them.